What's up, everybody? Welcome back to ICNV Driver's Edition. And if this is your first time tuning into the channel, we are a car enthusiast network for people who love to drive cars to make you turn your head that aren't your everyday people movers. But we're also an interactive channel, which means if you hit me up on any one of my social media platforms or in the comments below, I will do my best to respond. And if the topic you bring up is interesting enough, just like this one, I may even make a video on it. So today, I've been reached out to about 5 or 6 people through my social media platforms based on some posts on Facebook. And what was shared with me is the C8 ZR1. Yes, we're going to talk about 2 different topics. I could discuss it separately and make 2 separate videos, but I figured why go through the process of doing all that? And plus, I'm not that person trying to make really videos for clicks. So you brought to me, or should I say it was brought to me, that there is a C8 ZR1 selling on Bring a Trailer for over 300,000. Let's just say 335,000 was the highest bid the last time I've taken a look. And people are sitting there going off in the frizzies like somebody actually crazy enough to pay that much money for a car. And I would like to say to you like this, even at this point, based off a couple people that released posts on how much they actually paid for their C8 ZR1, which was in the $300,000 price range, at $335,000, several people would still make a $20,000 profit. That's crazy. But on the other hand, I was also sent a video on my Instagram page, or should I say through my Instagram chats, DMs, whatever you guys want to call it, that shows me a video of a C8 ZR1 that appears to be having engine problems. So let's dive into, is the C8 ZR1 really worth that type of money? And is this engine problem now a trend? Let's talk about it. Where do I start? Do I start with the C8 ZR1 being worth the money? Are people crazy for paying this much over for a C8 ZR1? Or is this the start of a new trend for seeing C8 ZR1 engines pretty much having major issues or concerns like previous versions of the C8 platform? Well, let's start with the lesser of 3 evils. Are people crazy for spending this much money on a Corvette for a C8 ZR1? And I guess the best way to attack that conversation is this. At this point in time, there were supposed to be over 300 C8 ZR1s on the street. We didn't even see 100 C8 ZR1s built. So even though there's a stop sale in effect, the stop sale does not affect cars that are in the possession of owners or used car market, or should I say used car dealers. So we are still seeing Z06s and C8 ZR1s being sold by these locations. Now the funny thing about it is we have seen a C8 ZR1 go through the auction recently. Well, I would say about a month ago, that actually went through the auction for close to $390,000. And I think this is significant because although we're seeing crazy prices for these C8 ZR1s, what people are not realizing, or what people don't want to actually believe, is the cars are still selling. And because the cars are selling, we really haven't seen a price that has been a true deterrent. Yes, we've seen, I think, 2 C8 ZR1s in California listed for $500,000. I'm not even sure those dealerships still have those cars, because when I search for them, they don't pop up. And I'm not saying for a $500,000 to $100,000 markup, but I don't even see cars showing up as in dealerships inventory in California, which usually requires you to call in and ask about the car. And that's when you find out they're adding some form of ADM, which is adjusted, dealer markup. And I'm not even seeing them listed. So if those cars are still in the possession of those dealers, and you know that, hey, drop that information in the comments below. But what I will sit there and say to you is that because these cars are constantly selling at this point in time over 300,000, I don't want to get into specifics because I don't know the actual owner of the C8 ZR1 that's available for sale, because it is being sold by a dealer right now. But if I'm not mistaken, the owner that actually originally purchased this car, or maybe it's not the same person, but they originally got this car for 50 grand over MSRP, and then they sold it to a dealership for just around 300,000, and now this dealership has put this car on Bring a Trailer, and the current bid the last time I checked was $335,000. So again, are people crazy for paying this type of money? If you are a true car enthusiast, you will understand that cars aren't meant to appreciate, but certain cars will appreciate. So I guess the phrase cars aren't meant to appreciate is wrong, but certain cars, certain models, certain brands are built in such limited quantity and such special characteristics that, or certain significant things that are factors about them, that as time goes on, the car goes up in value because you cannot find another vehicle, or the odds of replacing this vehicle or duplicating this vehicle or replicating this vehicle is almost impossible. And I've said that time and time again. I don't believe the C8 ZR1 will ever truly be mass produced. And when I say mass produced, when you get to a point where you are building over 5,000 models of a particular car, that is crossing the line of mass produced or mass production. And I know there are going to be some people that sit there and say, no, 5,000 cars is not mass production. When you look at the fact behind exotic cars and limited build quantities, 5,000 cars actually does start to get into a mass production realm. So because there aren't even 300 2025 C8 ZR1s on the marketplace, there is less than, let's just say that, there is less than 100 cars that got produced. So the 2025 model year C8 ZR1, and I've said this before when I thought there was only going to be 300 cars built, is going to go down as a collector's item. Car collectors will seek out this car. The reason they will seek out this car is because of the old interior, which many people say they do not like, but that's what's going to make this car rare. That's what's going to make this car's value climb. It will climb before any 2026 value or 2026 car value goes up first. So the owners of these cars, whoever's lucky enough to keep these cars and actually have them in their possession, I would say 10 to 15 years from now, they will see a significant return. And do $300,000 become a blemish on the wall? I think these will be $500,000 cars. People can say I'm crazy because no Corvette will ever be worth $500,000, but let's just be real about the situation. There was once a C7 ZR1 that could not sell, that would not sell, that people were not buying for the listed price of $132,000. And today that same car floats around 189, and at its highest point, at its highest peak, you could buy that car in today's market, today's economy, for well over $200,000, almost maxing out 100 grand worth more than it sold for 5 years before. So in just 5 short years, that car went up in value $100,000. Today's C8 ZR1 is selling on average for $300,000. If you can get it for less than $300,000, you're already winning. And because there aren't 100 of them on the street, yes, there aren't 100 on the street, this car is going to continue to rise in value. It's kind of the funny saying that people are like, oh, that's never going to happen. But then think about the fact that Jay Leno went out and bought a $1 million McLaren for $800,000. And then years later, that thing is worth 5, 6, 7 million. Just think about that. Let's move on. So I think I've covered, is the car worth the money, and are people crazy for paying that? And I feel like people aren't crazy for paying it because, one, if you have it and you see the value, spend it. Two, the value for this car will be there years down the line. We can argue today if it's a bad purchase, but I promise you, if this car is worth $500,000 anywhere in the next 10 to 15 years, the person that bought the car, the people that said they were crazy, will either not be around, or they will be biting their words, and they'll still be saying it was a dumb purchase, but the car should never be worth that money. That's the trend. Now let's dive into the whole craziness surrounding this video that was shared with me about a Corvette C8 ZR1, which appears to have a malfunctioning engine project. If you listen to the car in the video, that sound is not normal. That car should not be making that noise. And although it's a kind of a jokingly comment sitting there saying, can any mechanic off the back tell them what's wrong from the sound of the car? I can tell you right now, regardless of what happens with this car, GM will warranty it, they will fix it, they will replace it. The question is, how long will that take? And then I can tell you the other problem with it is, no Corvette owner wants to see that, especially for a car that I'm pretty sure he paid over $225,000 to get in his possession. So for a $250,000 car to have this type of problem less than 3 months of being out, yes, that is truly unacceptable. The GM Corvette team should be kind of upset, but at the end of the day, things happen. So far, this appears to be a one-off. I will remind you that when the C8 Z06 initially came out, we saw maybe 3 or 4 situations where the Z06 was malfunctioning, making funny noises, not accelerating, wouldn't move, things of that nature, all within the first 3 to 6 months. But then again, there were way more C8 Z06s on the street. So with this one car experiencing this problem, would I say it's a concern for concern? And that's kind of funny to say, but would I say this is a concern for concern? And my question would be, or should I say my answer would be, possibly. And I say that because the amount of C8 ZR1s on the street is nowhere near the amount of C8 Z06s that was on the street to actually replicate the amount of mass problems. And I'm not going to say mass, but at least to allow 10, 12 cars to pop up with defects. At this point, I've seen videos from 2 or 3 C8 ZR1 owners that are driving their cars. They're out there on the internet if you look at them, who are actually driving their cars and enjoying them. The cars at this point are close to 2, if not 3,000 miles. So these owners are driving these cars and they don't appear to have any issues. So that also re-encourages me that maybe the research and development, the R&D that was put into the C8 ZR1, it may be sufficed. This may truly be a one-off. This could possibly be, I hate to say it, I will not say it, because I don't believe there's any owner defect or owner misuse, or however you want to say blame can be pointed at the owner at this point in time for a car that new. You just can't say that the owner is the reason for the situation. But then again, we never know how they drove it from the factory. We never know what they did with it, because again, I've seen videos where they tell you not to do certain things in the car until you reach the break-in miles of 500 miles. And we see people with a camera on a cell phone posting YouTube videos, posting reels of them doing exactly what they say do not do until you reach the break-in miles. And there's been done by dealership porters, salesmen, and so forth, because they know they can't drive the C8 ZR1, but it has less than 100 miles and they're doing things that you shouldn't do in a C8 ZR1. So even though you may be the owner of a C8 ZR1, the new owner of a C8 ZR1, you can't control what has actually happened to the car once it arrived at the dealership. You can only hope that your dealer does what they're supposed to do and not put you in a bad predicament. So although GM may turn around and say it could be proven that it was a ownership thing for not breaking in the car like it's supposed to be, it may actually be a dealership issue that occurred before the car even got into the owner's hand. But right now we're just speculating. Overall, all we know is there is one C8 ZR1 as of today with some form of powertrain issue. And we will stay tuned to see if this starts to break headlines, become a big blown out situation, and to see how GM addresses this going forward. Any information I get, I would definitely share with you guys. As for now, that's all I have about the topic. If you have any comments, anything you want to discuss about this, hit me up in the comments below. ICNV Driver's Edition. Go ahead, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Join the ICNV Driver's Edition community. Like I stated before, we're an interactive community, which means if you hit me up on any one of my social media platforms or in the comments below, I'll do my best to respond. And if the topic you bring up is interesting enough, I may even shoot a video on it. Don't forget, we're a community of car enthusiasts that love to drive cars to make you turn your head, that aren't your everyday people movers. If you're one of those individuals, go ahead, lock in with your boy. We got more interesting content coming your way, and you don't want to miss out. Remember, we were all made in his image and given dominion over the world, which means we weren't just meant to be. So chase your dreams, build your visions, never ever give up, and embrace your own identity. It is okay to be unique. He's not done with you, and he's definitely not done with me. Remember to embrace your gift and step into your calling. You were given everything you need to be the best version of you that you can possibly be. Just remember to stay humble, stay focused, and stay blessed. And I'll see you in these streets. Peace.